Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. We are starting Maseches Gittin today. We have Gittin and Kiddushin, and then the end, and that's the end of Seder Nashim. The Siyum is on June 9th. We start Nezikin on June 10th. Mirza Hashem. Here we go. Gittin is all about the halachos of divorce. Um, Goes from a pasuk in Kiseitze, Ki yikach ish isha v'alav b'hayel imlo simsir. Chen b'einav kimatze ba'eres davar v'chasel l'sefer krisus nasan biyada v'shocha mibeso. The man takes his wife and cohabits with her, and it comes to pass that she does not find favor in his eyes, and she has found in her an immoral matter. He shall write for her a document of separation, place it in her hand, and send her from his house. Before I forget, of course I forgot. Sorry. Today she is the Ilya Nishmas Aaron Nachman Simcha Cohen, Yeshua Mordechai Ben Shepsel, Bracha Saba Shmuel Lev, and Moshe Ben Yosef, made in the house of Aaron Aliyah. And for some of these, Bracha Zoda, Bracha Aliyah, Bracha Avon Yisrael Marisha, Chaim Beth Bela, for Shlema Besoch Shar Chal Yisrael. And a shout out to our sponsor, Seder Nashim, the Imperial Advisory Group, helping companies with their CFO requirements for over 30 years. If you or your business need their help, reach out to them at imperialgrp.com. Okay, it's interesting to know that some mitzvahs like Egle Rufa have a whole parsha, like 9 psukim, and some mitzvahs have like even one word or one about. Okay, let's jump right into it. Perek, Gittin, Perek, Aleph. Okay, let's go. Hamevi get Medina Siyam. Person does not have to hand it, get directly to his wife, hand to hand. He can send it with a shliach. So now, starting the Masechta with a halacha instituted by the Chachamim for an agent who brings a woman a get from her husband in another country. So, an agent who brings a get from overseas, meaning any place that's outside Eretz Yisrael, to a woman in Eretz Yisrael. Say, for example, the husband was in New York and the woman was in Eretz Yisrael, and she the husband sent the the get with a shliach. So what's the story? You must say in front of two witnesses when delivering the get that this get was written in my presence and signed in my presence. Meaning that the get's not a forgery. Since the get was written far away, it was in New York, she's in Eretz Yisrael. So if the husband comes later and says it was a forgery, it'll be hard to find witnesses who can testify to its authenticity because they're in a different place. Now that was before you had WhatsApp and before you had online communications. This is written like 2,000 years ago when you could not communicate with from Eretz Yisrael to New York. They didn't even know what New York was. The bottom line is they didn't they were not able to communicate from overseas online today where it's very possible. So therefore the Chachamim decreed that the agent must be present when the get is written and signed. Okay, sorry for that technical glitch, but we're back at it. Where was I? Um, okay, we were talking. We said we were saying that if the Adam went from the get was from Cheger or from Rechem, which was in Eretz Yisrael, but it was on the eastern border, and people did not go regularly to into Eretz Yisrael, did not go to Shalim regularly, then he must. Then the agent also must he must pronounce it authentically to make as the guy that's going to Chutzlart. The same rule. Maybe Lezer says afilu mikfar ludim even Asians brings get from ludim to Lud, which is not that far from each other. Um, Faluda was outside of Israel, but was so close to the border that it was actually surrounded by land in Eretz Israel. So Eliezer holds that in each one brings a get the short distance from Faludim to this declaration as well. So even a short distance. Okay, the Chachamim agree with the first Tana that the halacha applies only to the places far from Eretz Yisrael. The Chachamim say, "Eno sarach," she does not have to say this get was written in my presence and signed in my presence. Ela hamevi medina siyam, unless he brings a get from overseas, from far from Eretz Yisrael. I don't know what's going on with Zoom today. This has been bombed out already twice, so let's hope we can get through the rest of this year without too many more interruptions. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on here today. It's just weird. So I guess it doesn't want us talking about Gittin, but okay, we need to continue. Um, okay, v'chamim omim ein tzarich sheyamar b'fanei nachtam. An Asian does not have to say this get was written in my presence and signed in my presence. Ela maybe b'medinas yam, unless he brings a get from overseas, far from Eretz Yisrael, v'amolich, or he takes a get from Eretz Yisrael to overseas. Maybe Medina, the Medina Siyam. In addition, an agent who brings a gift from one country to another country overseas, you must also say this get was written in my presence and signed in my presence. He needs to make the proclamation because people are, it's not because people didn't travel so much between the two countries, the two locations. Shimon ben Gamliel says, "Afilu hegemonia, even one who brings a gift from one jurisdiction to another jurisdiction." So, according to him, you always need to say that in front of me it was signed and in front of me it was sealed, so you have some valid proof. Mishnah Beis, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says in Rekem the Mizrach, any place from Rekem eastward is considered outside Eretz Yisrael with regard to an agent who brings a get from there. Rekem Kemizrach, Rekem itself is like the area to the east. The Ashkelon with Darom, the same applies to the area from Ashkelon southward. Ashkelon Kidarom, and Ashkelon itself is like the area to the south. The Akal itself, the same applies to the area from Akko northward, but Akko Safon and Akko itself is like the area to the north. Meir says Akko Eretz Yisrael Gittin. Akko is like Eretz Yisrael with regard to Gittin, meaning that an agent who brings a get from Akko does not have to declare it authentic, and you're good to go. Mishnah Gimel. Hamevi get be'eretz Yisrael, an agent who brings a get from one place to another place within Eretz Yisrael. Does not have to say, the agent does not need to say that the get was written in my presence and signed in my presence, even if it was brought from a different province, Eretz Yisrael. It was easy for people to find people who can authenticate it. Therefore, he can give it to the wife without declaring it authentic. However, if there are challengers against the get, that later it's a forgery, it must be authenticated through the people who signed it. Meaning that these people should testify that they indeed signed it, or two other witnesses may testify that they recognize these signatures to be authentic. If the agent brings a get from overseas and is not able to say, this get was written in my presence and signed in my presence, if their witnesses signed on it, it should be authenticated through those who signed it. It should be authenticated through those who signed it, and may then be used. Either the people who signed it should testify that they indeed signed it, or two other witnesses may testify that they recognize the signatures to be authentic. However, the get may not be used until it is authenticated, as we learned in the beginning of this chapter. Mishnah Daled. Both Gittin are whether a women and freedom documents of slaves. Shavu le'malich le'mevi are the same when it comes to taking them overseas and bringing them to Eretz Yisrael. With both of them, the agent brings the get or freedom document. The agent bringing the get or the freedom document must say that this document was written in my presence and signed in my presence. This is one of the ways in which a woman's get, the Gittin women are the same as freedom documents of slaves. Mishnah Hey. Call get sheyesh alav aid kusi pasal. Any document that has the signature of a kusi, who's a witness, is pasal. Because kusim generally do not observe the mitzvahs properly and cannot be trusted to be witnesses. And referring over here to any document, that get does not necessarily does not only mean a divorce document, but it's any document. This is true for all documents except for Gittin of women and freedom documents of slaves, which are valid even if one of the witnesses is a kusi, provided that the other witness is an eligible Jew, because both witnesses of get must sign in each other's presence, and the Jew would not have signed together with the kusi had he not known that this particular kusi was a reliable witness. However, Gamliel agrees with the Tana and approves a get or freedom document, but even with both, when both its witnesses are kusim. The Mishnah supports the statement, and it did happen that they brought before Rabbi Gamliel in Kfar Osnai get Ishuahayu Edav Ede Kusim, a woman's get on which both the witnesses were kusim. The Hikshir and Rabbi Gamliel approved it. According to Rabbi Gamliel, the kusim are careful to observe the laws of Gittin and may serve as witnesses for them. All documents that are processed in courts of idolaters, and even though the witnesses who signed them are idolaters, they are valid. Except for Gittin the women and freedom documents of slaves, which are valid only if they are signed by Jews and processed in the Jewish court. Since most documents signed simply record an event, the courts are trusted for this purpose. However, Gittin and freedom documents actually bring into effect a divorce or emancipation. Only a get processed in the Jewish court has the power to do this. Shimon disagrees, and he says that even these, the Gittin and the divorce documents and the freedom documents signed by idolaters are kosher as long as they were given to the wife or slave in the presence of two valid Jewish witnesses. These documents are not said to be invalid except when they were made privately by idolaters who are not judges. However, if they were done in a court of idolaters, they are kosher. Okay, now a divorce does not take effect until the wife acquires the get. Usually, this happens when she receives it. However, if she appoints an agent to accept the get on her behalf, the submission above, she acquires it as soon as her agent accepts it, and the divorce takes effect then. So now this Mishnah is going to discuss a machlokas whether someone can acquire a document on behalf of a wife or a slave without their consent. So Ha'omer Tein get zel ishti v'shtar shikrul zel avdi. If someone says to an agent, "Give this get to my wife," they accept it on behalf of my wife, or give this freedom document to my slave to accept it on behalf of my slave. If he, the husband or master, wants to change his mind about either than before the wife or slave receives it, he can change his mind. Since the divorced wife and the freed slave loses the financial support of the husband or master, the divorce and freedom cannot be considered a complete benefit. Therefore, the agent cannot acquire the document for the wife or slave. The divorce or emancipation cannot take effect until they personally receive the document. Until then, the husband or master can change his mind. This is according to Rabbi Meir. The Chachamim disagree, but Gittin Nashim. They said that this is true for a woman's get, but not for a slave freedom document. For slave's freedom document. If he's a zach in the other stuff, one can benefit a person even when he is not present to agree to accept that benefit because he's not going to be free. But one cannot disadvantage a person except when he is present to agree to accept that disadvantage. According to the Chachamim, although it's not a complete benefit for a woman to be divorced, it is a complete benefit for a slave to be freed, as we're going to explain right now. So therefore, even though the agent cannot accept the get for the woman, he can accept it for the freedom document. Shemir says, even though the slave loses their free, if a master chooses not to support a slave, he has the right to do so, since he can stop supporting the slave at any time even without freeing him. Losing support is not considered to be a real disadvantage. However, a woman loses by divorce because if a husband chooses not to support his wife, he does not have the right to withhold her support, but is required to feed her. Therefore, getting divorced is a disadvantage for her since she will lose her husband's support. Meir says, surely you must agree that if he is the slave of a Kohen, his freedom contains a disadvantage. Because the Kohen disqualifies the slave from eating truma by freeing him, just as he disqualifies his wife from eating truma by divorcing her. Since his freedom costs the slave the privilege of eating truma, it is not completely beneficial for him. The Chacham responded, I'm below. The Chacham said to Meir, the slave is able to eat truma only because he is the Kohen's property. If the Kohen would sell him to a non-Kohen, he would lose the right to eat truma, although he will remain a slave. Since he could lose his right at any time, its loss is not considered a real disadvantage. Haomer tenu get zel ishti v'shtar shekure zel abdi. If someone says to a group of people, "Give this get to my wife," or "Give this freedom document to my slave," and mace, and he dies before they receive the documents, well, you know the achamisa. The agent should not give the get or freedom documents after his death, because his wife and slave lost their bond with him automatically as soon as he died. Tenu met mana ish ploni v'mace. However, if a person said to a group of people, give a mana, give 100 dinars to so and so, and he died before the person received the money, yet knew the achamisa, they should give him the money after his death to that person. Thank you for joining us again. Sorry about the technical glitches, and we'll see you tomorrow for Perek days. Have a wonderful day.